a profound realization has moved me to share these thoughts with you. It appears that many of us, upon entering our later years, quietly withdraw from the river of life. This isn't due to a weakness of spirit or a lack of will. It happens because the outside world subtly tells us our season is over. When we hear that message enough, we can begin to accept it as truth. But the very fact that you are present here, listening, reveals something important. The flame within you has not been extinguished, not fully. And I want to share a perspective on why this inner ember is more significant than you might imagine. Before we explore this further, take a quiet moment to simply be present. I wish to connect with all of you who are joining in this shared space of inquiry. If these words already resonate with a truth deep inside you, perhaps we are meant to continue this journey of understanding together. Let me offer a question for your contemplation. Have you ever looked at the world moving around you and felt as if you were standing still on the riverbank? Your family has their own currents. The modern world may not seem to recognize your unique wisdom. Technology can feel like a foreign language. And yet, you hold within you a depth of experience, a resilience, and a perspective that is rare in this world. I wish to speak to that part of you now, because this truth is not spoken loudly enough. Your journey has not concluded. In fact, a new chapter, more meaningful than any before, can begin from this very point. Consider a wise elder who felt his purpose had become a faint echo. For months, his days felt like shallow water, quiet and unchanging. One morning, he began to tend to a small, neglected garden in his yard. He did not do this for any reward. He did it simply to nurture life again. In the act of nourishing those seeds, he rediscovered his own inner vitality. His contribution was not grand, but it was real, and so is yours. The wider world rarely celebrates such quiet, internal transformations. But these are the very stories that hold the most profound power, because they could also be your story. You have simply not yet turned to the next page. There is a powerful insight that often goes unspoken. It is not the passage of time that limits us. It is the state of our mind. Most people beyond 60 still possess physical capacity. Their minds remain sharp, but they are spiritually weary. Not from a life fully lived, but from a story that says their life is nearing its end. Listen closely. The mind does not have a season of retirement. Your inner potential carries no date of expiration. I have witnessed individuals in their 70s cultivate new skills, author their wisdom, embrace new practices, not because it was simple, but because they refused to believe the narrative that their journey was complete. The only true end is when you cease the process of becoming. Allow me to ask you directly, what is one aspiration you have held within your heart, but told yourself the time for it has passed? Contemplate it, acknowledge it, perhaps even share it in the space below, not as a boast, but as a gentle planting of a seed. If you find yourself thinking, I would explore new knowledge, or I would create something with my hands, do not let complexity halt you. Later in our time together, I will share the simple framework that I have seen many people use to build anew, even after many seasons have passed. But first, we must illuminate something even more foundational, why so many feel this sense of being stuck, and how to find flow once more. I offer this with gentleness. You may perceive yourself as alone, but you are not. Even when no one from the outside world inquires about you, the deep awareness within has not gone silent. Meditation is not simply a practice. It is your gateway to a resilience the world may not comprehend. When I speak with those who have revitalized their path after 60, almost all of them mention a similar shift. They started to ask different questions. Not, what am I able to do? But rather, what was I meant to give? This change in orientation is where the new path begins. Now, you may be thinking, I understand this, but how do I channel this energy? What form would it take for someone in my position? That is precisely what we will explore next, because the answer is not found in motivation alone, but in clarity. And once you possess clarity, even the most obscured path reveals itself as walkable. So remain present with me. What I am about to share has the potential to alter how you perceive the next 2 decades of your journey. You do not need to race to keep up with the world. You only need to reawaken the part of you that has always been present, waiting. And when that occurs, all things become possible. Let us explore that together now. If you are still with me, let me share an observation that may be unexpected. You are already moving in a different current than most people of your age, simply because you are still listening. You are still open. This is the quality that separates those who remain on the shore from those who re-enter the river. And that is the essence of what I want to explore now. Because finding flow again is not a matter of chance. It is not about resources. It is not even about having enough time. It is a matter of clarity. Let me ask you something. And I ask that you be honest with yourself. When was the last time you felt a deep sense of clarity about your purpose? Not just your daily tasks, but your unique purpose. The thing that makes you feel valuable, connected, truly alive. If it has been some time, you are not isolated in that experience. And I wish for you to be part of a shared understanding, right here, that can help you reclaim it. Here is what many people over 50 encounter. They rise in the morning, and the day feels like a repetition of the one before. The news is the same cycle. The people in their orbit are occupied. The silence grows longer. And with time, the mind can slow. Not because it is weary, but because it lacks new terrain to explore. This is how we become stuck. It doesn't start with the body. It does not begin with our schedule. It begins when the mind stops expanding and the spirit stops anticipating. That is the true enclosure. And the only way out is to gently reignite your mind once more. I once knew a woman who felt her presence had become nearly invisible to the world. She told me, even in public spaces, it's as though people see right through me. But then she undertook a single act of learning online. First about gardening, then about making pottery from online teachings. She began creating ceramics in her small workspace. She showed me her creations, bowls, cups, vases of simple beauty. Now she shares them at a local market. She said, I didn't begin for income. I began because I needed to experience the feeling of creation again. Those words have remained with me. I needed to experience the feeling of creation again. That is what feeling stuck takes from us, the sense of our own becoming. There is a quiet story that many of us carry inside. If I haven't figured it out by this point, I never will. And that story is untrue. It is a deep, limiting falsehood. Some of the most profound wisdom in history was shared by those in their later years. They didn't fail to find their moment. Their entire lives were the preparation. But what was the catalyst for their contribution? They began. They took a small step, even when the world offered no applause. So the real inquiry becomes, what can you do to invite this flow back into your life? It is not a complex process, but it requires a gentle courage at the beginning. Here is a simple starting point I often share. 1. Ask yourself each day, what new insight can I welcome today that reminds me I am alive? It could be a piece of wisdom from a book, a podcast, or a simple observation of nature. 2. Intentionally create one small disruption each week. Do something in a different way. Take a new path on a walk. Explore a different type of food. New experiences create new pathways in the mind. 3. Offer your energy to another without being asked. Volunteer your time. Call someone who is also in a quiet place. Write a letter of appreciation. Purpose often emerges when we shift our focus from what we are missing to what we can give. I am curious. What is one area of knowledge you have always wanted to explore, but never granted yourself permission to begin? Place it in the comments below. Let this be your quiet declaration to the universe. And if you are a person who meditates or sits in quiet contemplation, then tonight, I invite you to hold one simple question in your heart. Remind me of the purpose that still wishes to flow through me. Because regardless of your age, your very breath is evidence that your purpose is not yet fulfilled. Now, I mentioned earlier that I would share a powerful shift in perspective, one that 99% of people never make. It is the difference between experiencing your final years as a decline or transforming them into the most meaningful season of your life. And I will share how to do that soon. But before we arrive there, you need to understand the primary illusion that keeps so many people of advanced years held in self-doubt. Because without addressing that, nothing else can take root. We will turn to that next, so stay with me. You have journeyed this far, and that alone speaks to a certain strength within you. Because while many people turn away, seek distraction, or say, perhaps at another time, you have remained. Why? Because some part of you recognizes that there is still more to unfold. And you are correct. Now, as I said before, I wish to share one of the most common traps that our elders fall into, often without awareness. And this point is vital, because if you do not see it clearly, you will continue to convince yourself that a remarkable life is no longer possible. Here it is. Most people beyond a certain age mistake comfort for peace. They believe that because their life is quiet, it must be peaceful. But quiet is not always peace. Sometimes, quiet is simply the absence of feeling. Sometimes, it is just a life that has stopped flowing forward. As a result, no waves disturb the boat. And over time, that stillness does not bring tranquility. It brings numbness. You cease to reach. You cease to learn. You cease to believe that anything new is on the horizon. That is the foremost mistake that nourishes self-doubt. Confusing a small existence for a safe one. Consider a pond. When it remains undisturbed for too long, it appears serene. But if no fresh water flows in or out, it becomes stagnant. It loses its vitality. It cannot support new life. This is what happens to us when we cease our growth after 60. It is not for a lack of time or ability, but because we have been conditioned to believe that movement is a risk and that stillness is peace. But the truth is, to remain static when your soul craves movement is the slowest form of fading. So, let me offer you this question. Have you been naming your routine peace, when in your heart you know it is closer to simple survival? Are you greeting each morning with curiosity or with a quiet sense of resignation? Be honest with your own heart. No one else is listening. If that resonates with something inside you, simply leave a comment. Let me know that you are still here, still aware, and still prepared. Because now we turn to what can be done about it. The good news is this. You do not need to dismantle your entire life to feel a sense of vitality again. You just need to begin taking small, purposeful steps forward. Here is a framework that I have seen bring results time and time again. The 3 flows a path out of stagnation. 1. Engage the flow of your body, even just for 10 minutes each day. Walking, stretching, tending to a plant. Motion in the body sends a signal of motion to your life. 2. Engage the flow of your mind. Welcome one new piece of knowledge each week. It can be humble. How a flower grows, how to share a digital photo, how to navigate a simple website. The goal is not mastery, it is reinvention. 3. Engage the flow towards others. Connect with someone. Offer a smile to a stranger. Serve at a local food bank. Isolation is the soil where doubt grows best. But contribution, no matter its size, cultivates confidence. I have read about an elder who spent many years in solitude after his working life ended. He had few friends nearby, and his family was distant. His wife had passed on. Every day mirrored the last, until he decided to help young children learn to read at a nearby school. He shared that on the first day, he felt a great sense of fear. He felt out of place. But 3 weeks later, a young girl looked up at him and said, "I can read this now because of you." He said it was the first time in over a decade that he felt truly needed again. That single moment dissolved years of accumulated self-doubt. Ancient wisdom teaches us that we are not given breath merely to survive. We are given breath to build, to offer, and to lift others. And if you are still breathing today, it means your purpose is not yet done with you. Sometimes our most meaningful chapters do not open until we cease asking, "What have I lost?" and begin to ask, "What can I give with the wisdom I now hold?" Now, remember what I suggested at the beginning. I said there was a reason I felt this message had to be shared. And in just a moment, I will offer you the shift in mindset that changed everything for the people I have seen go from feeling invisible to becoming essential. But for now, I want to leave you with one truth. Your life is not designed to shrink as the years pass. It is designed to be refined, like a tool used well, worn down by experience, yet still capable of shaping legacy until the very end. The most vital years of your life are not in your past. They are within you, waiting to be lived. And if you remain with me, I will show you how. If you have stayed with me to this point, it is not out of simple curiosity. You are ready, and I honor that more than words can express, because most people will never hear what I am about to share. Not because the wisdom is hidden, but because they are too distracted, too numb, or too fearful to face what it asks of them. But you are here, and now I wish to give you the shift. The one change in perspective that I have witnessed transform lives after 50, 60, and even 70 years of difficulty, stagnation, and silence. Here it is. The remainder of your journey does not have to be an echo of your past. It can be a creation inspired by your future self. Most people do not live from the future. They live from the past. They speak in terms of, I have already passed my opportunity, or I once was, or it is far too late now. But here is the profound truth. Your past is not a prediction of what is to come. It was merely your preparation. Everything you have walked through, every error, every regret, every moment of suffering was not without purpose. It has prepared you to become the person you are meant to be now. That is the transformation. That is the insight that 99% of people never grasp. Let me ask you this. What if everything behind you was not a judgment, but a curriculum? What if your most potent years are not about gaining more, but about giving from a deeper well? Because here is the part that many never comprehend until it is almost too late. At a certain point in our journey, life ceases to be about what you can acquire, and it becomes about what you can contribute. And in that space, everything changes. A few months ago, I was told of a man of 71 years. He was retired, a widower, with a quiet house and a simple life. One morning, he saw a small notice. A local youth center was seeking mentors. He did not believe he had much of value to offer, but an inner voice prompted him to go, and what began as one afternoon a week blossomed into a community where dozens of young people called him their guide. He taught them simple skills, timeless values, how to mend things. One young man said, "He was the first elder who ever looked at me and said I had potential." Do you think that man needed more wealth, more possessions, more ease? No, he needed to feel his own usefulness again. And when he did, his entire world came alive. And I deeply believe that this kind of shift is what you were designed for. If you are still being given breath, it is because your purpose is not yet complete. And the moment you stop asking, what is gone, and start asking, what do I still hold that another person needs? That is the moment you become a force of nature. Now, I want to give you something practical, something you can engage with today before the day ends and pulls you back into the current of routine. Here is a 3-step checkpoint for clarity. Write these down. Contemplate them. Share them with someone you hold in high esteem. 1. What aspect of your life still holds a spark of energy for you? Even a small one. A single spark is all that is needed to start a fire. 2. Who could find value in the wisdom you already carry? True wisdom does not grow old. It becomes more potent with time. 3. What is one single action you can take this week that helps build up another person? Begin small, but begin. Movement itself creates momentum. Think of yourself as a tree in winter. The outside world may only see bare branches, but within, your roots are deeper than they have ever been. And when spring arrives, the tree does not start over from scratch. It begins again with more strength from a place of deep foundation. That is what I perceive in you. Not a life that is concluding, but a life that is deepening. Not a decline, but a definition. So now I pose the question to you, what will you do with what you have heard? Will you allow this feeling to recede, or will you awaken something? Will you continue to wait for a sign, or will you begin to write the chapter that only you are capable of writing. State your intention in the comments. Do not delay. Make it known. Use your days and your newfound awareness to bring this intention into reality. And if this message has spoken to you, let it be known so that another person might find the words they needed to hear. You are not too old, and it is not too late. You are capable of leaving a legacy far more profound than comfort. You can leave behind meaning, and that makes you more powerful than 99% of the world may ever comprehend. Look through my other sharings for more parts like this. I will see you on the next step of the journey.